Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here. This is an absolute new setup kind of on Facebook. I guess that's what technology is. You keep making changes. It tells me I've been on for 3 minutes, and I haven't been on for 3 minutes. Anyway, here we go. Oh, now it's 10 seconds. So welcome to Live at 5 with, I say moi, actually with the pictures, but it's Cheryl Millett here, and if you're new to watching Live at 5, the idea is there's 3 components. One component is something completely different or something new, and then get into the news, and then lighten up with some humor. And that's as simple as that. So try to bring it in so that it's within, how can I say it, within an hour or less would be nice. But at times, you know, from one week to the next, there's a lot of information. And in some cases, I actually want to unpack it, which is read it to you and give you my thoughts and things about it. So you can think. You know, you can think about it the way you want to think about it, but just sometimes we have, and this is how we can share with each other, different views or different ways of looking at different experiences. So we bring that to the bring that to the table. Now, the purpose at Live at 5 is definitely to bring information, although we're in the information age, and I will say there's a lot of information out there, almost too much information. You can be down the rabbit hole in some cases, or watch just on any one subject because of all the things we've created. And I like to simplify it. So some of what means by coming on is simplifying things and getting back to nature. That's what Awakening You is all about, is getting back to our nature, our true nature, and learning about the things that make more sense, to tell you the truth, more common sense. And it is about thinking for ourselves, absolutely. Worshipping off the table entirely, or not giving away your power. I'm just doing because somebody or something or some institution or some system says it's the best thing, and they must know because they have this degree or that degree. I'm not putting down learning whatsoever, but the idea is if I talk to 10 people, I'm going to hear a good majority of those people say, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And how do they keep things, you know, together? I'm just going to make sure I have my phone off here, and there's other notifications. But so what is the something new? And if you kind of see where I'm kind of going with things, with the simple, but also in line with when I say wild foods, sometimes they'll call it foraging, but let's just call it nature. Nature provides us the food. If you really didn't have a kitchen per se, and you were in a tent, and you knew enough about your environment, let's say you grew up there since a child, and you actually had family members that knew the foods you could eat, and they've been there for generations, you would think you would know where the berry bushes are, the fruit trees are, you would know where the nuts are, you would know what plants, what's roots, and all of that. But we really have been taken away from our nature and who we are and all of that stuff, which I'm going to talk a little bit later in reference to the book club that I've been doing it for several years, but the book club, we started with the Anastasia series in January again. The timing is amazing in a sense that is talking a lot about nature, and it's talking about the disconnect we have as a man, let's say, with that, and how really we've come to where we've come to. So again, that'll be different. So let's talk about wild foods. Today, I was watching a video on how foraging this particular plant, and I'm going to show you now. They're right out of the dirt. However, I just washed this one, but I'm going to show it to you. And Again, it's got dirt on it, so I'm just going to kind of keep it out. There we go. So let's see if you can see this in its beauty. It's, again, I'm going to use a brush. I'm going to wash this, but this has been washed to the degree it has. Let me show you another one. And in nature, as it is, I'm going to talk about food waste later. It's not necessarily imperfect, as in it's not perfect. It is nature. It is nature. So this is another one, burdock root, and you can just see how long this is. And I have 4 or 5 more there. So burdock, however long it's been around, this is the root of the plant we might be very familiar with even as children, or if you have pets as well, the burrs, the ones with the burrs, the ones where the inventor got the Velcro from, the burrs that stick on because they have these, how can I say it, turned up grabby things on the burrs themselves. And the burrs, this is definitely burr season. And burdock root can be eaten around this time, but it can be eaten anytime after the spring. And it's the first growth. And you can eat the leaves, and you can actually peel back the stems. And I'm just going to show a leaf here if I can get it out easily enough. And I'm going to show you the inside as well. So let's show you a leaf. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits, but this is again not a good one, but I kind of brought it with me. It's you can see the edges of the leaf are kind of wavy, and there's a fork in, you can look at the rib, but you can look at the veins in the leaf, and there's like a fork that comes out. And when these leaves come together, they come in like a floret, as they call it, and it gets redder closer to the ground. So some people will think it's rhubarb, but it isn't rhubarb. It has a softness to the under part of here. There's differences between the plants for sure, but you can eat the leaves when they're tender. That's true about a lot of wild plants. When they're tender, when they're new, when they've grown too long, they become stiffer, they become more fibrous, even the roots will become more fibrous. But you can use the leaves when they're older like that, like you would use grape leaves. Like you would use grape leaves, you could actually use the same thing. So I'm going to show you inside the root. It's white, creamy, let's just say, and it's a great starch. And if you think about this, you're going to I'm going to tie it into thinking about as parsnip, carrot, kind of combined with the burdock. So I want to show you quite quickly, because I harvested probably about, it seems like about 50 wild carrot. And what's interesting about them, I'm going to show the burdock as well, is they far from being perfect and smooth. This is the wild carrot. This is probably not the largest one, and they'll continue to get larger. But what I thought when I went to go and forage or dig some of these up, the burdocks, is it's going to be better to use the first year. Same with the wild carrot. The wild carrot came to mind, and what I ended up doing is digging up the ones that didn't have the tree-like with burrs on it. I dug up the ones that didn't have that, and wonderful root. When I dug up the other one, that had produced, the stem had produced the burrs, then there was really nothing there. It probably used the energy from the root to build the bush-like that comes out. The leaf that I showed you is around the bottom, but then the actual fruit, I guess we could call it, that comes out takes a lot of the energy out, and so you didn't have that. Now I just wanted to go over, besides being a starch and a food, I just wanted to quickly go over some of the benefits, as benefits are. I'm going to say you don't even need to absolutely bother with that so much. If you know things are edible, then you can just eat them and enjoy them. And there you go. Just eat them and enjoy it. You don't need to know all the benefits. You don't need to know this or that. When it comes to medicinal, Yes, when it comes to you have certain symptoms and your body's going to do it, and you're thinking that you need to heal, you need to strengthen, then think of it as medicinal. But in the meantime, if I knew I had certain things that I wanted to do, typically if I'm feeling great and healthy, then I really won't have to look at. But here's some here. Purifies the blood. Again, a lot of things that are natural naturally do that anyway. Strengthens the lymphatic system. This is where we get into the immune system. And again, remember, as I say time and time again, everything's been created. All the labelings, the way they think the body works, all of that's been created. How it's been observed through science. At the end of the day, we're looking at the whole picture. And you are whole. And yes, we do have fluids, we have circulation, things moving, we have things to strengthen, we have things that we want to work well. So it works as a natural diuretic, which is just stimulating the liver, that part of the body. And what happens when anytime you urinate or anytime you go to the bathroom, number 2, you are detoxifying. So if you can stimulate a little bit of that, that's great. You don't want to overdo it, because then you're using vital nutrients to go in to do that process, and it's got to do that. Heals the skin, defends against diabetes, combats cancer, improves arthritis, helps treat an enlarged spleen, fights tonsillitis. And let's see what it is. When consumed as a food, burdock root is considered to be safe for use. Avoid burdock if you're dehydrated, pregnant, or nursing. Now, in essence, when you're dehydrated, the focus would be on hydration. And the starchy vegetables is not as hydrating as some other things, like even chlorophyll and those other things, or pure water. Pregnant and nursing, when you hear some of these things coming in, to me it just thinks of liability. You just think of that kind of thing, and that's used more and more from holistic practitioners, whether it's a disclaimer or it's a in this case, some sort of a side effects to it. But in essence, there's a lot you wouldn't do. It's just common sense. It's just common sense. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about burdock. I wanted to show you the root. It's just amazing, all these different roots, all the different shapes and sizes. I'm just going to go back here on the camera just to make sure it's coming through. I'll show you them. Oh, they're full of dirt. That's what I'm going to say. Full of dirt, full of dirt. Anyway, you can see the young shoots leaves up there. And this was kind of on the side, but it was more, now that I wanted it on my keyboard, more like this, kind of in the ground. And then here's another one there. Look at those. Now, some of the ones I have purchased over the years are typically, they're more like that, more straight, and not as wild looking as these other ones. And you've seen carrots come out of the ground, perhaps. I mean, you've purchased carrots. Quite often, a lot of carrots will have a lot of these, or not to this degree, but they'll have fine things on. And if you're buying these at the store, quite often this is probably wiped off or smoothed out in the cleaning process. But be it this is a wild carrot, or if you're picking carrots out, you'll notice that there is more of these tiny roots coming out of what we can call a tap root. But I mean, I have seen some crazy shapes. Here's another one, a wild carrot. Just crazy. And both of them, the technique for getting them out, just to kind of wrap up on that piece, is the burdock is much longer, as you can see, and much bigger. So what I ended up taking, because I had it in my shed, is a post-digging shovel. So it's much longer. It's probably a good foot long, not that wide, and roundish on the edge, and that would dig a post. But perfect for digging the burdock, because you do go down a foot. And what's nice about this time, if you can remember times to do it is when it has been raining. When it has been raining, it is so much easier. Messier, yes, like messier, muddier, whatever. But it's had, it's not like I'm going into a swamp here, but the soil is much easier to actually loosen up. And with the burdock, it was more about stick the shovel in about 5 inches away and just kind of dig it so it's loose, and then you get in there, you grab it by the leaves. You don't take off the leaves. You use the leaves and the stem to actually wiggle it out and pull it out, all the side roots and everything. With the wild carrot not being so big, I use the trowel and I come in a couple of inches before, because sometimes they grow on the side or outwards or go sideways a little bit, and so you want to go about 2 or 3 inches out. And then I do the opposite of moving the soil. I actually move the soil away from it instead of in where I could, or kind of out from the plant, if the plant's here, and that way I don't snap it. And if you dig the trowel in too close, you could actually cut it, and you don't want to do that as well. And if you only need to do it once, again, if it's wet, you probably only have to do one side. If it's not, you'll find that it's easier to do a couple or 3 even, do different sides. And I find with the carrots, yeah, you have to kind of, again, there's the leaves are more tender. I don't have, do I have leaves? Let me show you. The leaves are very much like a carrot, a very fine, delicate, not like the burdock. And so I usually get a handle on the roots, the root part, a couple of inches as far as you can get down, and then it's a slow, not a yank, it's a slow bringing up, so it kind of loosens from the soil bit by bit and bring it out. Otherwise, I can tell you through experience that I have snapped off a few, and if you grab the greens and expect the greens to take it out, you will be the greens will come right off, and then you'll be looking at a lovely top of your wild carrot. But tonight I'm going to do roast burdock, roast wild carrot, and maybe some orange carrot. I probably have some of that as well. So I'm going to roast it all up and have it. Again, it's very, it's a great starch, the root of the burdock, as carrots can be starchy too as well, but this is more starchy, so it's going to be yum, yum, yum. But it is a soaking, it is a cleaning, because there is almost as white as the wild carrot that I showed you. But anyway, that's burdock. Wanted to show you that. And again, I'm in Toronto, so I just went down to the ravine. I had scouted out and been scouting out the ravines and where I'm walking as to where things are, so I knew where a bunch of them were, and it was easy peasy to get several of them, and there you go. So that's burdock. And I know the comments here, yeah, it looks like a small horseradish. Yeah, horseradish. Yeah, there's similarities between all of these things, for sure. And it's just being able to identify not just the leaves, but yeah, the leaves. The leaves is probably one of the most important things because you're digging it out. But that's fun. But let's get into the news. And good to see you, Sharon. Or see that you're on here. Let's talk about the news. What's my list here? Yeah. Well, here's the thing I'm going to just step into first, just kind of starting, is that used to talk about all the compassion we have for people and the kindness to have for people. Absolutely. And you know why that is? It's more helpful for us to stay in a good feeling place. A good feeling place. When I, over this time, whether I guess it's a year and a half or so, it is about staying in a good feeling place. However, you can take note when you're not feeling good, and what are those feelings, for sure. But the compassion, just like gratitude and kindness for others, no matter where they are, they don't know any better, then that's a place to be, because that's like gratitude. Doing your gratitude journal, you get to feel better for that, right? Not in a judgmental state, not an angry state, but into that place. But I want to step it up a bit. Okay, I want to step it up a bit, And I want to put it out there that we need not try to change anybody. We need not to try to change anybody. Convince them of anything. Bring them over to your side. Now you can share information, and if they choose to do, great. But there are going to be some people in your lives that you're just with, you're going to hang with, da 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 da. You can't see any reason to step away. And here's what I'm going to suggest: that you just have fun with them. You bring in the various things where you can have fun, whatever that fun looks like. Is it talking about the good old days? Is it talking about your favorite dishes? Is it talking about pets because you're both animal lovers? Whatever it is, make your time with people fun. Because what I'm going to say is, in a lot of ways, because of the dogmas, the indoctrination, the long time, centuries, millennia of, I'll just call it programming, convincing people, you know how that feels no matter where you've been at any time in your life. But so it doesn't feel good for you. I want you to feel good. And you probably want to feel good yourself. So bringing people or convincing people, for some, you're not going to be able to do it. They are dead set. So just agree to have fun together and allow them to be in the space of fun, this good energy, because it's only a matter of time before things get shaken out, solved. I mean, I'm just going to say it this way, before things get to where they need. Now, how is it going to be? Well, there's a whole conversation, it would take me hours here, of all the little nuances of that. How do we get from here to there? It is a mystery. So accept mystery. Accept that we don't really know. Because, again, as I've been talking about the whole you, the whole plant is the wild plants, and the whole you, and looking after the whole you, we have to understand this is a whole situation, including all the people on the planet, and the earth included, all the energies, everything is the whole thing. So it's not as easy to make, although I don't want to put that out there, but the magic bullet and the snapping of the fingers and all of that isn't exactly where people think. And if you can think you just don't do anything, it's all going to turn out. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But understand that things will happen in your world, in your life, that will create circumstances that you do have to somewhat get into action. And that's where you're going to be guided. In the Awakening You presentation went wonderful, but I knew that only if I go through it because I was planning for 3 hours, and 3 hours and 20 minutes it took, but the idea was to go through it, and I do need to break it up. I need to have the mind-body connection, the physical and the mind learn that, and maybe that's 2. I don't know. That might be 2. And then do the simple solutions on a separate night for a couple of hours. It needs that loving attention. It absolutely needs. But just understanding who we are truly, in an essence, in line with nature, it's just a calming. It's a calming, rather than any symptom you get and you have no friggin' clue, and you're going, bouncing off of walls and calling doctors and going to visit, and you're trying to think about it. This will put you into the Awakening You presentation, puts you in a place where you better understand. You have an understanding in true nature, an understanding, and it's not being clouded. The simplification is removing the clouds. It's removing the fog. And we've been put in fog for a reason. Why? Just as the book Sapiens, burn them all for all that, but it's interesting. Everything's been created. And where we are today, economics been created. The systems, the institutions, the education system, all of these things have been created to keep us, we can say it's in control, but it's keeping us doing what they want us to do, or being in the place they want us to. It's a controlling thing, absolutely. and you don't feel, people have various degrees of feeling as to are they capable and of doing all these things. We've been taken away from our true nature, and this has been a long time. So you have to be able to work with that. But having said that, I'm going to, so book club Anastasia. I don't know if I'm going to repeat this next year, but you can absolutely go get the books on your own. And there's a series of 9 books, and just read them. But I wanted to tie in some things. This is what I feel more and more is not that everything's perfectly tied together. No, most of the artificial stuff, you can see them not so much. They can be disconnected. But nature, things are tied together. So here's just a sentence here. So the idea is people invented images of various gods and began to control nature with their help. Nature, we're part of nature. That's what I will say. So remember, people they invented images. Think of movies. Think of television programming. People invented images, advertising, to tell you something that they want you to believe in. Think of all the books. Think of how you read, and people will say, I get images when I read. I have to see images. It's part of our senses to actually vision. So if we are hearing things, if we are reading things, we still can, in our ability to conjure up an image. So if you think about Greek gods, if you think about all these gods, and we learn them in school, do we not? The Greek gods and heroes, if you remember that book I think I had in grade 9, I was all over that. I so much liked Greek gods and the Greek history and all of that. So the idea is imagery was used to create those gods, or any gods, or I think about the words, you are a sinner, or any of the words can conjure up images. Or if you go into any buildings, or in, let's say, churches, imagery is being used. How you're thinking about it, what you need to remember as to what they're saying or preaching to you, helps you remember what they want you to remember. Not just in nature. So if you kind of put that off to the side, as to where we're thinking about all of that, and plunk yourself down in the forest, you don't really have all of those created images to control man and to control nature. And often throughout this event, people have come up with things they're hearing they don't know to be true, and they'll talk about as if it's going to happen. It's a futuristic picture, imaging. So remember, and I've said this before, in the sense of be careful, because at times when we feel that there are distinct divisions here of the good guys and the bad guys, even the good guys, unknown to them, are programmed in the sense that they'll continuously feed in imagery that you give away your energy to, that you will act upon because they say is to do that. And I go through many things in the Awakening You presentation to bring you away from that, the external, the people that suppose we deem as experts, and get to the simplicity, which will use up a whole lot less energy, and guess what? A whole lot less money as well. And so it's not about getting into the conversation of money or abundance or anything. Abundance isn't always just, it's not around money, right? It's not around money. So I wanted to bring that in, those few things there around joy, having fun with people, because if they're in a fun state and not thinking about the future and not being worried and what they see on the news less and less, just just tell people to turn off the news if you can, and if they will, and let them, from day to day, there's nothing that's really, and think of it as an exploration, adventure. Have them think of it as an adventure. Don't watch news for a week and see how you feel, see how life feels to you, and again, really understanding that the germ theory is a theory, the bioterrain theory is a theory, and I've discovered a few things about both of them. I put that in the presentation as well because it's a progression of information, but the idea is things are not as they seem, and germ theory was created and adopted to control people, put people in fear of germs, of bacteria. The common sense of it is they do exist and they all have a purpose. And this purpose needs to be, how can I say, appreciated. It needs to be accepted. And with different things, you're going to understand how that works against us, in the sense that nature isn't set up that way, as in having foods being, traveling in a truck for a week, or sitting somewhere here for a week. And of course, they're supposed to compost and recycling. So food poisoning is so real, but it just requires some simple understanding to avoid food poisoning, to avoid it. So let's go into a couple things. I want to unpack the Norway thing. Okay, so this is the thing about the volatility. Oh, we can be happy if this happens. We can be sad when this is happening. We can be happy. Whoa, look at this. And you really have to read the fine print. Norwegian government announces lifting of final COVID-19 measures. Well, that sounds in and of itself, it's over there, but not so fast. On Friday, the Norwegian government announced that most of the last remaining coronavirus restrictions would be scrapped. Most of the last remaining scrapped from Saturday, and life would return to normal with increased preparedness. So not normal, because they say most and they say with increased preparedness. Well, exactly what that means, I didn't even get that out of the arc. So this is Saturday, September the 25th. We are on Monday the 27th. This is relatively short, so I'm just going to go through it. Prime Minister Erna Solberg announced on Friday that from tomorrow 4 p.m., so this will be Saturday, most of the final remaining national COVID-19 measures in Norway would be dropped. As a quote, "Now we can live almost as we did before the pandemic hit us. I do not think everything will be as before." Now that's a seeding of the mind. I wish it isn't going to be the same as before, because we as human and as mad really needs to identify the things that weren't happening for us in nature. I think the coronavirus will affect us for the rest of our lives. Well, that's only if you want it to, and that's only if you really believe in the germ theory. For better or worse, we can agree there are some positive things happening here. We have learned now how vulnerable we are. Bullshit. Do not let that get into your consciousness. We're only vulnerable because we have been fed that information, and very much through this event. Vulnerable people, vulnerable. Yeah, it's because they don't know enough. We are, and how much we can achieve when we stand together. Stand together makes me think of the reset, makes me think of this. Solberg told the press conference on Friday, in bold, the decision to lift measures such as social distancing, should be physical distancing, was based on advice from the Norwegian Institute of Public Health. Let's put them on a pedestal. Oh, they know, and the Norwegian Directorate of Health. Notice that every country kind of has these two groups. That's the bolded part. In addition, limits on numbers at gatherings will also be axed, and rules stopping venues letting in guests past midnight will be repealed, and club goers will be able to hit the dance floors once again. The NIPH and the Norwegian Directorate of Health gave us advice on Monday that it will be possible to switch to normal everyday life around the turn of the month. The positive development has continued this week, and that is the reason why the government after a thorough assessment. Oh, they got to let you know they did a thorough assessment. I don't think so. Has concluded that tomorrow at 4 p.m. we will move to normal everyday life. Yeah, making it sound that they want all of this to be sounding very good on their behalf, that they have done this, they know better. Although most of the last remaining measures will be scrapped, remember, you have to keep reading because it's always the fine print. It's almost like the print gets smaller and smaller, if you can imagine that. Will be scrapped. Those who test positive for COVID-19, remember, the PCCC, reedy, yardy, whatever test is crazy. I mean, it is so inaccurate in the beginning. Anyway, they will have to still self-isolate, and the unvaccinated people, again, we're dividing here, living with someone infected will also need to quarantine. So you got these big words coming in here. They have seemed to mention both isolate and quarantine in this short thing. I'll send you the link so you can see it. Furthermore, the traffic lights, interesting for schools, will remain in place. And entry restrictions and travel rules, which we will have more on in a separate article, will stay in place for now. So really, people, entry restrictions to what? To what? And travel rules. Okay, municipalities, and it gets even better. Last final sentence, I would say wait for it. Municipalities. So you take a country and you divide it all up into municipalities. What a beautiful creation that is. You have like an overarching government, and then you've kind of divided it so that you have individual people making their own rules if they so wish. So listen to this. Municipalities would still have the right to introduce their local restrictions and policy on face masks and gathering limits. There you go. Lots in that one to unpack, which is why I really wanted to unpack that one on Norway. And we can see that things have changed on a dime. We know that from Canada and our wonderful province of Alberta. Again, another way of breaking up the country. So you can slough off oh, we're doing this is good, going back to everyday normal life. Yeah, right. And then you have the mayor or the whatever, yeah, let's call them mayors of the various areas and districts can actually not do it or do it, not do it, do it or not do it. Face masks. So that's what I just wanted to come in with that. So the idea really is to understand the language that they're using and repeatedly using, keeping people at, how can I say it, at a closeness to every word that the government or health bodies that support what's going on here. Nothing has changed. Right from the beginning, this is a game. It's a narrative. It's an agenda. Right from the beginning, still nothing has changed. If people think it has changed doing all of this, well, you'll soon learn other things. There you go. And so what kind of footwear do politicians like to wear the most? Flip-flops. Very good, Howard. Very good. Yes, so the idea is the flipping, flopping, the games people play, the things that have been created for such a long time allows the games to be played. And never, if you really think you can get as much as you want out of a headline of an article, never. I have read so many headlines, and in fact I've made it a thing to look at headlines and then see what, sometimes it's the bolded paragraph, a little bit of a summary analysis to give you a little bit of the bigger picture, but still not the detail. And you have to keep reading. But this Norway one is a prime example of if you only read the headline, you would be not in the know exactly. You'd be that. So let's, what else did I want? Oh, The thing that's coming up more and more is in line with the Global Economic Forum and climate, and there's food, make sure everybody is fed. But understand, as in reading the Sapiens book and further research, the reasons why we have poverty have been created by the very same people they have the solution. And the whole climate thing, corporate, still wanting to stick with oil, all of that's been created through, let's just call it capitalism for now. It's all been created. And now to actually buy into them having the solutions, it really sounds good, but those are not the solutions. And I'm going to tell you that they're trying to make you feel good, but they're again trying to have you buy into the leadership. That's really what it's about, having you buy into the leadership. Look what they're doing. I mean, it's the same thing of having mission and vision statement for corporations, blah, 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 blah. That's just there. It's a feel-good thing. It's to get people think they're doing good, and it's not that they're not doing good. For optics and truly doing so, yes, they are. Of course they are. But understand the deeper things that are going on here. So food waste, I decided I'd go on to a Zoom call with a few people. One was Ran, who is the founder of Fresh City Farms, and there was somebody else. So here's the interesting thing about it. I followed the link they gave me initially. There was a couple links. One was Zoom and the other one was there, and I decided to do that. It's another video conferencing thing. And here's what showed up twice. Just a flicker, just up and then down, was social credit. On this video, by watching this particular program, what came up was a pop-up that talked about social credit. Now, I didn't get to see it and read it all entirely, but I think there was a button here, a button there, or maybe it's just saying that. But I found it fascinating that just kind of popped up so quickly that, again, let's remind ourselves that things, imagery in the background, just flashing on social credit. They're doing something in the U.S. now related to social credit already, and it's tied in with the bank, and it's tied in with a certain bank. That's all. I won't name the bank. And so what's going to happen when they decide what is the credits you're going to get and what is the ones or things you're doing that are going to take them away? Give you and take you away. That can change on a dime. And this is the key thing about technology. Yes, we can use it, but understand the trap of it. Understand the trap the stock market has. Understand there's traps, and that's how I'm going to just best describe them. And so the idea is food security. So if you read enough about certain things when they say food waste, you're going to see this phrase, food waste, food security, and it's going to give you stats about, and I think in this case, this was from Galen from Weston Lobos, where I worked for 20 years, and he has an email. Let me just see if I can bring it up very quickly and point out some things here, because I have it up. Yep, so, return back to school things, yeah, and again, some of these things are perspectives, not take things for granted, and again, just making people feel vulnerable and making people feel like, whoa, leadership, you did a great job as well, and but here in Canada abroad, far too many people remain food insecure. Remember, it was created. Okay, wondering where their next meal will come from. Yes, it's pulling on our heartstrings. Just as upsetting is that this happens at the same time as food is being sent to landfill in staggering quantities. Why is that? Well, I understand that the the hands are tied of the hotels. I mean, this is having done conferences. They have to throw out the food because of food poisoning. They have to do certain things. It's the rules. So it's interesting that they're saying that they really could have done a whole lot more, a whole lot sooner. It was obvious to me decades ago. In Canada alone, we waste food enough each year to feed every single one of the 37 million of us for almost 5 months. Now, how many of the 37 million in Canada are food insecure? But you're going to hear that phrase. And again, this is what they're going to bombard us with through different messages, through corporations and things like that. It can't continue. And so as the stores that fill up more Canadian fridges than any other, talking Loblaws, or all the Loblaws one, we've been taking action. So starting on the farm, no name naturally imperfect products, save those fruits and vegetables which are slightly small and misshapen from the compost heaps, and instead bring them into a great price. So that's happened. That happened with Fresh City Farms. They have their, well, we've seen this over the years, day-old stuff. And now they're just, you have to download an app, unfortunately, which I'm not going to do, but you can buy packages of food so that they, instead of throwing them out, you can buy it for a cheaper price and have it. So this whole thing sounds all good and glory, but guess what, people? They should have been doing this for ages, but they got us to the point where people, perfect things got, but and people actually complained about it. Now people aren't going to complain about it, which is good, and there's going to be, and their second harvest, and then they're going to be doing this and that. But it's I might put some of this in here. You might have the email or actually be subscribed to it. But Canada's food waste heroes. You're going to see these names, not gods, but heroes. That's why the latest installment of our Insiders Project profiles some of the Canada's food waste heroes. Well, just good for you. They're doing it. That's great. Out of the glory. But no, they got to call themselves heroes. Check out our 4-part docu-series. Oh, I'm going to check it out. Half full. For amazing stories from the people working hard to make the most of the food we are lucky enough to have. So you feel lucky. You feel lucky. Now, grow a garden. That's what I'm going to say. Grow a garden, people. Learn about food. Learn about wild foods. And work directly with the farmers. That doesn't mean everybody's going to. We can't shift. It's not about that kind of a shift. Anyway, that's that. I wanted to bring up that as well because a few things keep cropping up, as in they didn't know it before. Of course they knew it before. I can tell you that by manufacturing plants and all the Western plants. They knew about waste. They've known about waste forever and ever and ever. It's just like, how can you not know about waste? You have a garbage can, right? And you put it in. And you would darn well know if you filled it up and 3 days versus 7 days, what's going in there. You would have that understanding if you had too much waste. You go into your fridge, you got to take the food out. How much food are you wasting? You would have an understanding of what you waste. They all had an understanding, and they all had to work at different rules and levels about recycling, like cardboard and different things, programs. They've been on this for decades, and probably decades and more decades. And they've actually, for you good people out there, I'm on a roll here, to know that fish oil is a waste byproduct of the fishing industry. So in the 1980s, increased food of the fish twice a week. Remember that? Increased fishing. And what is it? It's just a way to see how people are going to respond. Eat fish twice a week. And of course they have all this fish. But what are they going to do with the waste byproduct? We're going to sell them fish oil because we know it has omegas in it, but it doesn't really work the same way as mammalian omegas, thinking breast milk or other mammalians, animals. So you kind of have that thing kind of happening. I'm freezing a lot. Yeah, in some ways, yeah, I'll post the links and that, but it doesn't surprise me that I'm freezing a lot with all the words I'm probably saying. And then the other thing is, to watch it afterwards. I don't think the freezing happened now. So for some, it seems like it's happening more to others and asking people. But what else did I want to talk about? I think that's it for today. You know, that's a lot. Perspective. You're going to hear all of these phrases. We have a new perspective. You know, we didn't think we were as vulnerable as we thought we were. BS, BS, BS. There's a lot of BS is coming through. Keywords are coming through, so you can have the imagery and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of BS happening, SB, whatever. And the idea is to get in nature, really. Get in tuned. Have fun with your family. Be aware, but yet don't be sucked in, and don't. And I know I'm not trying to tell you what to do here, but the idea is whenever they're kind of giving you powerful suggestions, and that's why I wanted to unpack this Norway thing and read a little bit about this food waste. It's just kind of slough all of that off to the side and understand what the problems are have been created. If you can just remember that, what the problems are have been created, and these solutions are really trying to, how can I say, solidify systems, leaderships tied into systems, change at a level where you're more controlled, you are more, how can I say, visible to whoever wants you to be visible for. You may think this is all games and play and it's fun and oh great, we'll get to know if somebody had COVID at the restaurant, and we'll get to know in a timely fashion, and we'll get all of that. Sounds really good. It does, but it'd be very helpful people understood that the germ theory isn't what you think it is at all. Why diseases happen isn't really what you think it is or what they have you believe it is. We're only vulnerable, and they say it in articles, because too many people are on drugs, number one. Number two, we are not living as our true selves, in true nature, in nature. We are not connected to nature like we were once, whether that's millennia ago, or some have been guided towards that and have created that for themselves. Not do because that's what they think is better for you. Be mindful of the assimilation, the annihilation, assimilation, and how that is a programming. They can make up any lies they want to make you think, like paganism, that they did sacrificing when they did not. They can burn entire libraries, like Alexandria, in Russia, in wherever, with all the good old books about stories, true stories, showing you no incidents of sacrificing by the pagan people. I mean, again, these are labels and stuff like that. If you can label people something, then you can describe it better, just like diseases, right? Just like diseases. So better understand, and everybody will feel you will feel a breath of relief on things going. So let's just read a couple of jokes here, but I'm going to, let's see what we have here. Walmart is boosting about donating money to food banks, but they throw tons of good food in the garbage once a company gives them credit. Yeah, so true. Wasted so much good product when working at the stores. They do it, and they did it on purpose, people, because I'm not even going to go into a little bit more with conversations with people about it, but I did have conversations with people about it. And remember, purchasing power, choice. We all have choice, and it came up recently in the book club and in the 6th book of Anastasia, where choice is also to choose your feelings. And what came up at the Awakening You, when one of my clients had said, Cheryl, what was a turning point in her understanding things was when I had said to her that Nobody else is responsible for your feelings. Nobody is responsible for your feelings. And do I remember saying that to her? No. But the idea is, as we kind of seek and we ask questions and we're looking for guidance, these things come through. These things come through. And so for everybody, you can do that. So let me go through here. Thanks, Howard, for, the great reject. I'm going to tell you more and more, I'm reading less and less and watching less and less, more and more, because it's the same old, same old. It's the same old, same old. And I mean, I just kind of play and I kind of just see it's the same old, same old. And you could be not even having enough time in your day to look at all of the different pieces now, because that's how expanded things are. That's how expanded this information that's keeping people distracted on either side. If we have to think of a division here, for, pro, against, con, whatever, good, evil. There's so much information now, it's becoming a huge time, energy wasting thing. And so I've chosen more and more over these months to read less and less and just pick up different things and go through different things as examples as it ties to who we are. That's really kind of what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, it's like a different, it's a different time, but same bullshit kind of thing, if you want to say it that way. A different time, a different event, a different place. And now this is kind of like on a global scale, although things can be said as global. So let's read some of these things, speaking biblically here. This is going on to the third section. Let's bring in some humor. Question: what fruit lasted the longest in Noah's Ark? What fruit lasted the longest in Noah's Ark? The preserved pears, and pears is P-A-I-R-S. The preserved pears. What can you tell me about the great chemists of the 17th century? This is a teacher asking this question. Student: they're all dead. Teacher: what did Paul Revere say after his famous ride? Whoa! As we think of a horse. He's riding his horse. Let's do one more here. Miss Brown: without oxygen, human life would be impossible. This important gas was discovered in 1773. Irving: Miss Brown, what did people breathe before oxygen was discovered? Lovely children, children, innocent children. But it's the way we phrase things, it's the words we use that allow us to find the fun in it and allow children to kind of say and answer the way they do, because of words and language and how it can kind of come out without writing a whole chapter on it. The child answers the questions as such. So I'm going to thank everybody for coming on today. Again, any particular topic, any particular question, any particular things that come up, again, I'm going to thank everybody for all of the links, because I do browse and browse certain things and see what kind of stands out for me. So thank you, definitely for that. And stay in the know to a certain degree, as they say. Keep your the people who have the say, let's just say, that are making the calls. You want to kind of understand what they're saying. You want to hear what they're saying or putting into place. At times, people will say things to me, and I go, oh, well, really, it doesn't matter to me, because I just don't wear one of these things and never have and never will. So the idea is they can change what all they want. It ain't going to make a difference anyway. I'm going to have a bit of fun coming up soon, just letting things settle and see where I'm guided to and when. I will do certain things. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up now. Yep, big hugs, sending big hugs to everybody too. Big hugs, Sharon, up there in Labrador. Fun place. Can't wait to get there and visit you and see your beautiful part of Canada. It's going to be great. So take care, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. And remember, fun, fun, fun. Fun with no matter where people are. Just create more fun for them, because that will lighten up the energy for the planet anyway, and they're not thinking in fear. They're not in fear and fear and fear. So turn fear into fun with anyone. Then I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting into the rhyme, but for anyone, and it doesn't matter where they are. But on that note, now officially I'm going to say good night and have a wonderful evening, wonderful week, and we'll see you next Monday at live. And if you do like this video, share it, and it will be on YouTube anyway. I can see more and more people are watching it there, but that's where it is. So just having some fun with you and having some fun sharing and all that kind of good stuff. Take care. Bye for now.